Hello, I'm Maddie. I'm one of the 5th years at Imperial, and I'm going to talk through emergency contraception. So, Levonorgestrel is the first form of emergency contraception we'll talk about, and it's a pill, it's a progesterone that delays ovulation from occurring. Now, the really important thing to remember with emergency contraception is that sperm can remain viable in the genital tract for up to 5 days after you've had unprotected sex. So you need to either delay ovulation so that you can't ovulate within those 5 days, or you need to prevent the implantation of any embryo that's formed. So Levonorgestrel does the first of these. It delays ovulation, and it is best taken within 24 hours of unprotected sex, but it can be taken up to 72 hours afterwards. And the important distinguishing feature between Levonorgestrel and the other emergency contraceptive pill we'll talk about is that with Levonorgestrel, you can use any other contraceptives immediately afterwards. With Ulipristal, this is the other emergency contraceptive. And again, it works by delaying ovulation, but it does this by being a selective progesterone receptor modulator. And it can be taken up to 120 hours after unprotected sex, so it has a longer window than the Levonorgestrel. But after you've taken Ulipristal, it reduces the effectiveness of progesterone-containing contraceptives for the next 5 days. So, if you want to then have, say, an implant fitted or an IUS fitted, you need to use condoms until the next cycle starts and then have that fitted, or either carry on taking your pills but use barrier contraceptives for 5 days, or use barrier contraceptives for 5 days and then start your next cycle of pills, but complying with any missed pill rules. And again, you need to delay breastfeeding for 1 week. So I know that can be quite confusing, but if you think of it as Ulipristal, 5 days, you can't rely on your contraception if it's got a progesterone in it. Now, the copper IUD is sort of the other form of emergency contraception. And it works by preventing the implantation of an embryo. It's the most efficacious method. It is the best form of emergency contraception. And it also can have the longest window because you can implant it either up to 5 days after unprotected sex or up to 5 days after the likely ovulation date. And that's because it prevents the implantation of the embryo. So you have 5 days in between fertilization of the egg through to the embryo implanting in the wall of the uterus. So either you can, if say you don't have a regular cycle and you don't know your likely ovulation date, you can implant the copper IUD within 5 days of unprotected sex. Or if you know that you are due your cycle, your regular cycle means that your period is due in 14 days. That means that's the day you're likely to ovulate because you ovulate 14 days before you menstruate. So in someone who's got a regular cycle, you can rely on that as your measure for their likely ovulation date, and then you can insert the copper IUD up to 5 days after their likely ovulation date. And it's 99% effective any time in these dates. Oh, sorry, just going back. The copper IUD is also spermatotoxic, so it will also kill some of the sperm that's remained in the genital tract. So one of the ways I find useful to think about is in terms of just a timeline. So if you had unprotected sex exactly at midnight for the start of day 1, how long could you then take each emergency contraceptive for? So first, Levonorgestrel. So Levonorgestrel you can take up until day 3. It's a 72-hour window. but it's best taken within the 24 hours. Ulipristal has a 120-hour window. And then the copper IUD, and I've given you some extra information here that day 4 would also be day 15 of this person's regular 29-day cycle. So remember what I just said, that you ovulate 14 days before you menstruate. So day 15 of a regular 29-day cycle is the likely ovulation day. And so you can then insert the copper IUD for 5 days after that. This would take you up to day 8, day 9.